But before in sort of pockets across the city of Accra. But now we're seeing something that is going to have a ripple effect across the whole country, and not just across transportation, but the prices of everything that needs to be moved from A to B before it is bought by C.
Exactly, coach. So let me just share briefly the statement. We'll get into the analysis shortly. You also look at the pricing and how you calculate it. We should make it very easy for everybody. But there's a letter dated 2nd June 2021 and says that in line with the administrative arrangement of public transport fares, the road transport operators have reviewed the prices of the various components that go into the running of commercial transport services. After long and difficult negotiations with stakeholders, a 13% upward adjustment in public transport fares across all categories of services has been agreed upon. This is to accommodate predominantly an increase in the price of fuel. So they've indicated why they're doing this, and it's predominantly or mainly as a result of an increase in the price of fuel. And the new fares will take effect on Saturday, 5th June 2021, and the fares would cover the following types of transport: intercity, just trotro, intercity long distance, shared taxis. Shared taxis, I mean, there's not what you normally would call, that's not dropping. It's not what we call dropping. So if you get to a station that a taxi is loading, that's the shared taxi.
Right.
And it says, upon consultations, government has assured us that it will continue with efforts to prevent a steep rise in input cost. And government has also assured us by a letter from the Ministry of Finance that a suspension of the quarterly income tax payment by owners of trotros and taxis would be extended to cover intercity commuter vehicles to reduce the operational cost. We therefore encourage government to keep to its commitment in this regard. Members are kindly requested to comply with the new fares and post same at their loading terminals. We further request members, commuters, and the general public to kindly cooperate for the successful implementation of the new fares. And assigned Godfred Abubire, who's General Secretary of the GPRTU, and Emmanuel Ahineyabwa, who's General Secretary of the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council. So there you have it. The new fares taking effect on Saturday. But Kojo, let's make it simple. So it's 13%. So if you want to know your new fares, all you have to do is to use your current fare, and you multiply it by 1.13. It's as simple as that.
You say it's simple.
Oh no!
So someone can take a number and multiply by 1.13
So, for instance, you see,
while they are eating their breakfast.
No, they're here and they will be posted. I mean, posted at the stations. But I look at one that it says if it is 2 cedis 30 pesos, the new fare would be 2 cedis 60 pesos.
Okay.
Now, if you multiply 2 cedis 30 pesos, that's 2.3 by 1.13, it will give you 2.599.
Yeah, so you round it up.
You round it up, and it gives you 260. But this is just transport fares being increased. But the question we need to find answers to will be, how would this translate into affecting me as a consumer? Now, watch this critically. You've seen in the release, the Ghana Road, the GPRTU and the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council talk about government's plan, government's decision of a rebate so ensuring that they did not pay the vehicle income tax. That's a nice way of government saying, we understand the problems you're going to go through, but this is a way of cushioning you so that by extension, you don't transfer everything to the consumer. But now, what it means is, if I am going from here to Accra, for instance, to go and sell my products, I would have to pay more before I get to Accra. If I pay more before I get to Accra, it means that I also would have to charge more to be able to make profit. If I charge more, it means Kojo Yankson and Winston Amwa will have to pay more in buying those same products. Simply put, this has the tendency of increasing the rate of inflation in this country.
But now let's ask a few questions. How should this be done? You see how the fare increase has been calculated and communicated specifically. When it comes to how that is applied to the price of items that must be transported, There is no uniformity.
Of course.
So you are going to start seeing things that will actually make no sense. There will be increases to the cost of items, which will be more than 13% of the cost of the item. Meanwhile, it is only the transportation aspect of the item's cost that has gone up. You see what I mean? So you've baked bread in a village and you are bringing it to Accra to sell. So many things went into baking the bread. The cost of transporting it is just one of the components of what went into getting this bread to the customer. Now, that one component is going up by 13%.
Yes.
But when you are deciding on how much more you should charge for one loaf of bread, will you calculate it that way, or will you end up slapping 13% increase onto the cost of your bread?
Well, so the 13% increase that we see, that's the cost of transportation, may also lead to an increase in the cost of flour.
Yes.
It could also lead to an increase in the cost of sugar, an increase in the cost of margarine, an increase in the cost of milk.
Yes.
So-
But in each of these, it will be a 13%
Well, it doesn't work
increase
like
on the transportational cost of
all
the flour.
things- all things being
on
equal.
the transportational cost of the margarine.
all things being
Yes.
equal. All things being equal. Like, all things are not equal. And what we have here tells us that it is for shared taxi, intercity trotro, and long distance vehicles.
Right.
Now, if I am, for instance, I deal in flour, and I do not have a truck on my own, I do not know how much that truck would charge. That truck is not bound by this to say I'm charging you 13%. That truck could say I'm charging you this amount. Okay, so based on all of that, and normally we'll do all the calculations and say, so this is the impact of it on me, and then I would decide how much I want to put on it.
So are you saying that bread sellers, cocoa sellers, plantain chips sellers, computer sellers, phone sellers, fabric sellers, all of these people are actually going to sit down with pen and paper and calculator
They would
and
not do that.
the maths
They would
that
not
way?
do that.
So what would they do?
So they will look at how it affects them. And based on how it affects them, they will decide how much they're adding. Some could actually add more, less than 10%. Others could add more than 10%. But whatever it's going to be like, and some could actually choose to leave it at that. And so that's the essence of a free market. Some could say, well, in order to beat competition, I would rather reduce, the profit I normally would get so that I continue to remain in business. And if I'm able to sell more, it can increase my profit. So if I maintain the price, it could lead to a lot of people coming to
Increase your
purchase from me.
revenue, yeah.
Yes, and it would increase my revenue. But one thing it does, one thing we have seen over the period, is that whenever there's an increase in transport fares, there's a corresponding increase in the prices of goods and services, triggering a rise in inflation. It's good that we have an 8.5% rate of inflation, because our policy rate that we are celebrating a reduction is mainly inflation-targeted policy rate. And you heard the Bank of Ghana make the point that because of our inflation, the reduction in our inflation rate, they deem it necessary to reduce this. Yes, it is true that fuel prices went up long ago. But because transport fares were still the same, we didn't feel it as much as we may feel it. It could be the case that this may just trigger a 0.05% increase in inflation rate. We would have the impact by mid-July when we calculate our inflation, and then we would know. But in the interim, for those who will start using, from the 5th of June, I can tell you that automatically it reduces your disposable income.
Let me ask you something though. Do you think that this could have actually been increased? This could have been worse. Like they could have actually increased it by more than 13%. Do you think that they have? It's a sign that they've actually worked hard to contain the situation, or do you think 13% is actually a bit more than they should have increased it by?
Well, so we saw an increase in fuel prices of 12%.
Yes.
And so, some had complained that, spare parts prices had also gone up, but they've indicated that mainly it was fuel prices that actually led them to increase it by the 13%. The Concerned Drivers Union wanted a 20% increase, factoring, the increase in fuel prices and also the cost of spare parts. What the government did in this case, and it was one of the things that actually delayed the negotiation, that the transport operators wanted a confirmation from the Ministry of Finance that the government's decision to scrap or to waive the payment of vehicle income tax for the remainder of the year had taken effect. And they acknowledged that in the statement they released. So based on that, they actually settled for what they proposed. There was a proposal of a 20%. So it's like being mindful that this is going to affect you. So let me cushion you. And I'm cushioning you so you also do not pass everything onto the public. So it could have been more. But there was that element of a cushion announced in the budget to ensure that we don't feel the full impact of it. You could call it, some would say that's robbing Peter to pay Paul. But I would say it's also a nice way to increase the disposable income of persons, because this is actually going to affect their incomes. And if it's going to affect their incomes, there should be a way of making sure that it doesn't affect it so much so they transfer everything to you and I.
All right. Listen, I think in the end, one of the points you made is the most important one. It's about how it affects you. It's about how it affects you. So how does it affect you? We're all seated. Let's talk. Let's talk about it. How are the coming months going to be if transport fares are up by 13%? What's it going to be like? How are we going to cope? You heard people say they're okay with it. Are you okay with it too? Tell us. Let's share. On 0302 216 541 or 055 1111 997. Okay? We just want to hear what you think about it. Let's talk. 0302 216 541 055 1111 997. We'll start in Accra. Here's Seth. Good morning, Seth.
Good morning, Kojo.
Thank you for calling, Seth.
Yes.
13%.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. The impact is grievous, very, very grievous. Or going to be very grievous. Because just before the increment or just even, they are not able to cope. Now the prices of these commodities on the market are just galloping. I don't know. Right now, I virtually think the media is the fall in this country. Before something happens, it is the media who bring it forth before the government more or less needs to adjust. Look at the system of the education now. If you haven't brought it up, like nobody will be aware of anything. So virtually the media is driving Ghana. So I'll plead with you. The government has abandoned us to our media. Kindly go further with your research team. Look at the market, the commodities on the market, prices of commodities on the market 4 years ago compared to this time, or 6 years ago, it's a yearly trend. So we know what is happening. The prices of building materials are just galloping. I wonder whether people will be able to build houses and then live in. And to talk about the price of the increment of fares, you can imagine salaries are not even forthcoming. So we haven't even forgot talk about people who are unemployed, who are self-employed. What we are talking about salary, we're talking about we leverage it against those who are in the public sector. For that matter, their salaries will be increased correspondingly. But people who are unemployed, who are certain farmers, who hardly get money to buy something, we don't think about them. So when salaries are adjusted for people, then it's okay, it's cheap people. But what about the vulnerable? Let's go beyond just the salary workers and then think holistically so that the impact won't be felt by a lot of people. But for now, the economy, we are in shambles. To rise up against this, serious situation. Otherwise, it will be out of hand.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Seth from Accra. Ajiman Joseph is in Tema. Good morning, Ajiman. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, Ajiman Joseph, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. I hope you're doing well.
Sorry, Animwa is fine. Yeah, she's on leave.
Yeah, this is Hajima in Tema.
Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, I think the 13% upward adjustment is okay. It's normal. Because as we see that the transport owners and the drivers, we have been suppressing them for long.
Because anytime there's upward increment to fuel, they say they shouldn't increase. 1%, 2%, they shouldn't increase. And sometimes for the increment that they are making, they don't consider the fuel price alone. They consider other things like spare parts and other things. And you see our roads, most of them, before they will return from a trip, they need to buy something to fix their vehicle. So the increment, fine. But my problem is sometimes the way they calculate their percentage for the increment is an issue. And with the living condition, I think God every day, because no matter what, it will surely affect prices of food. But what do? We need to adjust ourselves to cope with it.
Right.
So for me, I think the 30% is reasonable.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ajiman Joseph. Papa Bisu is next. Papa, good morning. Yes, my boss.
He said, good morning, my brother. He said the increment is fine, right?
Yes.
See, some of us, anyway, we are in a democratic era, so he can air his view. I can also come out and say what I needed to say. The point is, I told you some time ago that here is a country that we live in that would produce oil. That oil gives us fuel. That is when they send it outside, we go and buy the fuel, right?
Yeah.
That's from that very oil too, it produces gas. That is the byproduct. Are you aware of that? All these two things are always increased in this very country. That's the fuel and the gas. And you are suffering Ghanaians. You see, under a previous government, Nanado said something. Yet it's a castle, it's a accommodating. Is that not it? To be frank with you, this is the time that it is a castle, whereby we are feeling very, very hungry. Because all those previous governments, they didn't have 3 oil fields producing oil and gas that we sell every day that brings revenue to this very country of ours. Nanado, upon all these things, it's boring left, right, and center. I am telling you that Nanado, if he's not yet ready to reduce the price of fuel and gas, he should shut down the 3 oil fields. I've said it, and I'm repeating it. Look, the way things are going, when the youth, strikes, it will be very disastrous for this very country.
Right.
That's the thing.
Thank you, Papa Bisu. Omusumuru is in Doma Bing. Omusumuru, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Not bad, my brother.
God bless you so much
Bless
for the
you too.
wonderful work you're doing for Ghana. But Kojo, let me set it on record that Nanado didn't negotiate for any company that they should dig oil for Ghana. It was NDC administration that negotiating happened. And you know that we have about 10% or less than 15% in that oil. So nobody should talk about it. You know there are 2 factors that determine price. The forces of demand and supply, and then government. Okay. Now, far back at NDC Rawlings time, when prices was going to increase, that time, it was government who determined who buy fuel, and then you negotiate to say how much we should sell it. When NDC first, Atames and John Mahama administration came, they give license to OMCs and the BDCs that they should import oil. Now, when they got that license, they form association. When they bring the oil, if it is 1 cedi, the association will say we are selling it 5 cedi, and nobody can talk about it because they have their license to operate. Okay. Now the government factor, the government to determine that price is no more there. So Ghanaians even doesn't know how much and when prices of fuel increase and when it reduces. So we'll be there, and then they will say fuel prices has increased, fuel prices has reduced. Therefore, I keep saying that as long as these OMCs and the BDCs continue to buy our fuel for Ghana, we will continue to have these problems. That is why the government is still, people are blaming the government that is not performing, because the OMCs and the BDs, they have their own agenda. Kojo, I am telling you that the government should take back their alliances and then determine fuel prices. That I think that will be better, and then Ghana will be free. Thank you.
Before, quick clarification of what you said at the beginning. It was actually former President Kufuor who negotiated the Jubilee deal, and then the other two were done by the NDC. So, yeah, just clarification there. George is in Kumasi. Good morning, George.
Good morning, Kojo. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Kojo, another economic burden handed over to the Ghanaians. You see, we cannot say they shouldn't increase transport fares, because the transport owners are also suffering. You know, our leaders will sit and make the economy so nice on paper, but we are not feeling the impact, Kojo. Now everything is going to be increased. So the government should take over some things. You see, the government is only powerful on appointing, heads of every institution, so that they will be able to control everything. All the power belongs to the president. But the power that will relieve the, ordinary Ghanaian is handed over to companies, and they are doing whatever they want. You see, the government have no control over prices. You go to buy milk, and you find it in sell prices. So the government should also control the prices, so that the burden will be low on us. It is and the government should also increase, salary of workers, that they can also meet the economic hardship. Thank you.
Thank you for calling us. Mills is in Kumasi. Always good to stop in Kumasi. Mills, good morning.
Good morning, my brother Kojo. I hope you're good this morning.
I'm very well, thank you, Mills.
Yeah,
what's on your
Kojo,
mind?
A quick one. I think the misinformation in this country is becoming too much. The earlier all of us gets to understand our stake as far as the oil industry is concerned, it will be better for all of us. Again, if I understood you well, I think the fare increase has been increased by 13%. It means then that the transport companies can increase their fares, but not more than 13%. And therefore, that doesn't mean that everybody should also increase its fare by 13%. Elsewhere, companies such as DP, RTU, Bose, and Uber would have come out as it is happening at the oil industry that, 13% has been given, but I'm increasing my fare by 10%, by 4%, by 2%. And let us push the argument to that level. And let us also begin to ask ourselves questions that the prudence of asking the foreigners who were also doing their businesses in the spare parts industry is concerned. We were made to understand that those people were selling their products while the Ghanaians are selling theirs at a cutthroat price. So why are they all not, buying their products from the same market? And I think if we shift the argument there, it will help all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mills. Edmund, is on Spintex. Edmund, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for calling us, Edmund. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think this is long overdue. Because as soon as the fuel price, the pump price was increased, the transport operators should be allowed to increase their prices as well, because the government is taking what it thinks can help him manage the country. And you want to extract that from the transport system. If they are private businessmen, there's been a series of calls for the government to reduce the taxes on the fuel. And if they can't do that, why do you expect the ordinary person, the transport, to sacrifice his little income to augment people's movement? It's wrong. It's wrong. If they can reduce the taxes on the fuel, I suggest that as soon as the fuel prices goes up, the transport system should, the fare should also go up. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, back to Kumasi now. Steve Wonder. That's a nice name. Steve Wonder. Good morning.
from Achuma, a Deputy Communication Officer in the ticket of NDC. Let me first of all say good morning to your production team and then your charity listeners. I also like to say good morning to Captain John Kwame Jabari. Please, about the fuel price. Somebody says when the fundamentals are weak, all the increment of fuel price is exceeding the country. We always, I'm surprised when politicians are using fuel price to do politics. We were here, nobody point gun on Nanado or MPP that they should use fuel price and do politics. Now, when the country was handed over to Nanado and the fuel price was 17 cedi and it is on record. Today, the fuel price is now about 28 to 30 cedi. We ask ourselves, who caused him? Nothing. Nobody can convince me that it is not, the government is not part of it. He is part of it. If he is not part, then he should control the price, and the price comes down. And all of us know that when the fuel price increase, all the commodity price increase. Now the cement, we cannot buy cement. The cement now is about 60 cedi. Why? When the cement was under John Mahama, when the cement was 20 Ghana cedi. Now we cannot buy. Master, the commodity price. The commodity price is not. It's just inflation. In fact, ask Bawumia. Where is Bawumia? Inflation. Nobody can control inflation. Now, poultry farmers are crying. Maize, one bag of maize, about 6 million. Why? If we even get maize to even feed our poultry, it won't be a problem. But we are important. Now, the country is getting out of poverty. In fact, it's too disastrous.
Right.
Nanado, come again, come. In fact, the country is so sick. When teachers are crying, workers are crying, market women are crying, students are crying. Everybody. We ask ourselves, did we go or do we come?
Good question. Thank you for calling. Did he say a bag of maize is now 6 million? That would be 600 Ghana cedis.
Yes, that's what I heard him say.
But is that possible? One bag of corn, 600 Ghana cedis?
I need to cross-check because the last time I checked, it was less than that. So.
All right, Dominic is in offense. So, Dominic, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you. I trust you're well.
We are managing. What's on your mind?
Charlie, we're all managers. We're all managers in our small way. Kojo, you know, I keep wondering, 13% transport increase, well, but then let's ask ourselves this question. Sometimes you see the baker calculating 13%. It's possible. I mean, we shouldn't write it off. It's possible it can happen. They are likely to also calculate 13% on the unit price of everything. The person who sells tomatoes will go bring in the tomatoes and then will calculate it accordingly. But you see, sometimes I'm like, the 13% affects the bulk that they bring in. So even if they are going to increase it, why don't they adjust something little? But Kojo, there is something that I don't know. For a long time, it's been burning in me. I don't know why I'm not hearing it in the media. The 1 peso coin and the 5 pesos coin. If you come to Asante region now, what the 5 pesos to be at the 1 peso and they'll make attraction again. But there are countries. I mean, you've seen this pens, right? They have one that is just as small as the 1 peso. But Ghanaians, we always find the laziest excuse, the laziest way out. And that is why sometimes when something has to even be increased by 2 pesos, it's increased by 5 pesos or maybe 10 pesos. Because that small gap in them, Ghanaians Nankasa, if you see a Bosa Yenti, meanwhile it's still a legal tender. So whenever there is something that has to go up just a little, it goes up very high. And it goes on and on, that, especially with transport.
Right.
The day-to-day transport, the taxi and the tour. But yesterday I promised you something that I was going to go through my phone to see if I could get you some videos I took when I was talking about those guys who had their fanfare and they were going to Bremen, they had a police escort.
That's right.
I have the video on my phone.
Fantastic. I would love for you to stay on the line and speak to our producers, and they'll figure out how to assess the evidence that you have. Okay, very important.
All right, sir.
Thank you for that. Stay on the line. Let's talk to our next caller, Francis, who's in Techiman. Francis, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Kojo.
How is Techiman today?
Kojo, this is rather just confirmed from Amagap 07 in Kumasi here.
Oh, forgive me. So, talk
you are
to
my
us.
friend. You are my good friend. Eh?
God bless you.
Yeah, Kojo.
Can
you tell me how many times this year? How many times the fuel price has been increased?
This year alone.
Yeah.
Would this be the second or third time? Yeah.
This the first time?
Third, I think. Third time.
Okay.
I'm sure. I'll have to double check, but I seem to recall two
you
other
have to
occasions.
check.
Yeah.
But the only problem that I have is now that the country is suffering about the power problem and things are not going well. Now that the fuel prices have been going up, and then the hourly fare has also increased. So when you go to the market, Kojo, do you know what is going to happen there?
Tell me.
Before we are buying 3 tomatoes for 1 cedi. And now that the rolling fare has been increased, how do you think what will happen? So my problem is, you see, in this country, our leaders didn't care for we the voters. We those who voted them to power. In some situation, this thing can be done. The government can control this for people, even not adjustment of the fuel prices, krana. Nothing shouldn't even increase the price. It can be done. Because it has been done in everywhere. When you go to Rwanda right now, before they were in Shambu, now Rwanda is free and fair. But now I think that our leaders didn't think about we the voters. We who voted them to power. They will come and lie to us and we vote for them. When we get there, they will forget us. Which is very bad. Some of us, the work that we do from hand to mouth. But we didn't care. So far as I wake up, I have a strength. I can go and work. But there is something that I vote for you, for you to make my life comfortable for me. But now where are we going, Kojo? Where are we going?
All right, Peter. Sorry, that wasn't Peter. Peter is on the line now from Adabraka. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo. You know, if I am to mark President Akufo-Addo for fuel prices, I'll give him 89%. Because if you look at from 2017 up to 2021, percentage increase is a little over 47%. If you compare this to John Mahama late Professor Mills administration, it was increased by 89.6%. So when it comes to management of fuel prices, President Akufo-Addo has done very, very, very well. Now, people are complaining that President Akufo-Addo said, yes, it's a castle, but a commodity. He said that on a context, because then the stealing, corruption in this country was far above beyond measures. That is when Bad Branding was there, Saga, and all those things were there. Okay? Now, let's compare sector by sector. Education. If you compare education, Akufo-Addo has installed teachers allowance, free education is there, school feeding is there. When it comes to health insurance is working. Nursing training allowance has been restored, and a whole lot. So let me speak with Daniel. economy has been slowed down. So let's give President Akufo-Addo some time and NPP government some time. We are working on it, and be rest assured that by next year, things will be better. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you for calling us. Thank you to all of you for calling us today, and we appreciate your thoughts. Coming up on the Super Morning Show.
The case of Azugu, I don't think that it is linked with the Caleb issue. I think that the Azugu coming in this issue rather highlighted the point that a recommendation made by the Emil Short Commission, which the government white paper agreed with, had not been complied with, which was sending back to the police and for the IGP to take action on. At least this thing revealed that that recommendation, which was agreed to by the white paper, had not been implemented for this long period, and that the guy was still there. And I'm sure that maybe that is what has led to he being reassigned to the Ghana police. This report that the National Security speaks about, when was the police and the military made aware of this report, the decision to reassign those people, you know, and what should be done to them? Was the military made aware? Is the IGP, the police aware? When were they made aware?
The armed forces does not have a formal report from the Ministry of National Security to the effect that this is the
investigation.
This is the investigative report.
It is a recommendation.
The army would trigger an investigation based on the Code of Service Discipline.
Joy 99.7 FM.
It's a new day.
All it takes is one bad event to affect the things that are of value to you. Underwritten by Saham Insurance.